we are going to continue talking about Auntie M. So they just got done eating a really nice meal. Ah, Auntie M said sadly, you notice some of my creations do not turn out well. They are marred. They do not sell. The face is the hardest to get right. Always the face. You make these statues yourself? I asked. Oh, yes. Once upon a time, I had two sisters that helped me in the business, but they have passed on. And Auntie M is alone. I have only my statues. This is why I make them, you see. They are my company. Creepy. The sadness in her voice sounded so deep and so real that I couldn't help feeling sorry for her. Annabeth had stopped eating. She sat forward and said, Two sisters? It's a terrible story, Auntie M said. Not one for children, really. You see, Annabeth, a bad woman was jealous of me long ago when I was young. I had a boyfriend, and this bad woman was determined to break us apart. She caused a terrible accident. My sisters stayed by me. They shared my bad fortune as long as they could, but eventually they passed on. They faded away. I alone have survived, but at a price. Such a price. I wasn't sure what she meant, but I felt bad for her. My eyelids kept getting heavier. My full stomach was making me sleepy. Poor old lady. Who would want to hurt somebody so nice? Percy? Annabeth was shaking me to get my attention. Maybe we should go. I mean, the ringmaster will be waiting. So Annabeth obviously has figured something out. She sounded tense. I wasn't sure why Grover was eating the wax paper off the tray now, but if Auntie M found that strange, she didn't say anything. Such beautiful gray eyes, Auntie M told Annabeth again. My, yes, it's been a long time since I've seen gray eyes like those. She reached out as if to stroke Annabeth's cheek, but Annabeth stood up abruptly. We really should go. Yes, Grover swallowed his wax paper and stood up. The ringmaster's waiting. Right. I didn't want to leave. I felt full and content. Auntie M was so nice I wanted to stay with her a while. Please, dears, Auntie M pleaded. I so rarely get to be with children. Before you go, won't you sit for a pose? A pose? Annabeth asked wearily. A photograph. I'll use it to model a new statue set. Children are so popular, you see. Everyone loves children. Annabeth shifted her weight from foot to foot. I don't think we can, ma'am. Come on, Percy. Sure we can, I said. I was irritated with Annabeth for being so bossy, so rude to an old lady who just fed us for free. It's just a photograph, Annabeth. What's the harm? Yes, Annabeth, the woman purred. No harm. I could tell Annabeth didn't like it, but she allowed Auntie M to lead us back out the front door into the garden of statues. Auntie M directed us to a park bench near the stone satyr. Now, she said, I'll just position you correctly. The young girl in the middle, I think, and two young gentlemen on either side. Not much light for a photo, I remarked. Oh, enough, Auntie M said. Enough for us to see each other, yes? Where's your camera? Grover asked. Auntie M stepped back as if to admire the shot. Now, the face is the most difficult. Can you smile for me, please, everyone? A large smile? Grover glanced at the cement satyr next to him and mumbled, It sure does look like Uncle Ferdinand. Grover, Auntie M chastised. Look this way, dear. She still had no camera in her hands. Percy? Annabeth said. Some instinct warned me to listen to Annabeth, but I was fighting the sleepy feeling, the comfortable lull that came from the food in the old lady's voice. I will just be a moment, Auntie M said. You know I can't see you very well in this cursed veil. Percy, something's wrong, Annabeth insisted. Wrong? Auntie M said, reaching up to undo the wrap around her head. Not at all, dear. I have such noble company tonight. What could be wrong? That is Uncle Ferdinand, Grover gasped. Look away from her, Annabeth shouted. She whipped her Yankees cap onto her head and vanished. Her invisible hands pushed Grover and me both off the bench. I was on the ground looking at Auntie M's sandaled feet. I could hear Grover scrambling off in one direction, Annabeth in another, but I was too dazed to move. Then I heard a strange rasping sound above me. My eyes rose to Auntie M's hands, which had turned gnarled and warty, with sharp bronze talons, 4 fingernails. I almost looked higher, but somewhere off to my left, Annabeth screamed, No! Don't! More rasping, the sound of tiny snakes right above me, from about where Auntie M's head would be. You guys know anything in mythology with a woman with snakes on her head? I think you do. Run! Grover bleated. I heard him racing across the gravel, yelling, Maya! Uh-oh, to kickstart his flying sneakers. I couldn't move. I stared at Auntie M's gnarled claws and tried to fight the groggy trance the old woman had put me in. Such a pity to destroy a handsome young face, she told me soothingly. Stay with me, Percy. All you have to do is look up. I fought the urge to obey. Instead, I looked to one side and saw one of those glass spheres people put in gardens, a gazing ball. I could see Auntie M's dark reflection in the orange glass. Her headdress was gone, revealing her face as a shimmering pale circle. Her hair was moving, writhing like serpents. Auntie M. Auntie, capital M, like the letter M. How could I have been so stupid? Think, I told myself. How did Medusa die in the myth? So the M is Medusa. So Auntie M is Medusa, who has snakes on her head. But I couldn't think. Something told me that in the myth, Medusa had been asleep when she was attacked by my namesake, Perseus. She wasn't anywhere near asleep now. If she wanted, she could take those talons right now and rake open my face. The gray-eyed one did this to me, Percy, Medusa said, and she didn't sound anything like a monster. Her voice imitated or invited me to look up, to sympathize with the poor old grandmother. Annabeth's mother, the cursed Athena, turned me from a beautiful woman into this. Don't listen to her, Annabeth's voice shouted. Somewhere in the statuary. Run, Percy! Silence! Medusa snarled. Then her voice modulated back to a comforting purr. You see why I must destroy the girl, Percy. She is my enemy's daughter. I shall crush her statue to dust. But you, dear Percy, you need not suffer. No, I muttered. I tried to make my legs move. Do you really want to help the gods? Medusa asked. Do you understand what awaits you on this foolish quest, Percy? What will happen if you reach the underworld? Do not be a pawn of the Olympians, my dear. You would be better off as a statue. Less pain. Less pain. Percy! Behind me I heard a buzzing sound like a 200-pound hummingbird in a nosedive. Grover yelled, Duck! I turned, and there he was in the night sky, flying in from 12 o'clock with his wing shoes fluttering. Grover holding a tree branch the size of a baseball bat. His eyes were shut tight, his head twitched from side to side. He was navigating by ears and nose alone. Duck! He yelled again. I'll get her! That finally jolted me into action. Knowing Grover, I was sure that he missed Medusa and nailed me. I dove to one side. Thwack! At first, I figured it was the sound of Grover hitting a tree. Then Medusa roared with rage. Ah, you miserable satyr, she snarled. I'll add you to my collection. That was for Uncle Ferdinand, Grover yelled back. I scrambled away and hid in the statuary while Grover swooped down for another pass. Kerwhack! Ah! Medusa yelled, her snake hair hissing and spitting. Right next to me, Annabeth's voice said, Percy. I jumped so high from my feet nearly cleared a garden gnome. Jeez, don't do that! Annabeth took off her Yankees cap and became visible. You have to cut her head off. What? Are you crazy? Let's get out of here, like Scooby-Doo. Medusa is a menace. She's evil. I'd kill her myself, but... Annabeth swallowed as if she were about to make a difficult admission. But you've got the better weapon. Besides, I'd never get close to her. She'd slice me to bits because of my mother. You've got a chance. What? I can't... Look, do you want her turning more innocent people into statues? She pointed to a pair of statue lovers, a man and a woman with their arms around each other, turned to stone by the monster. Annabeth grabbed a green gazing ball from a nearby pedestal. A polished shield would be better. She studied the sphere critically. The convexity will cause some distortion. The reflection size should be off by a factor of... Would you speak English? I am! She tossed me the glass ball. Just look at her in the glass. Never look at her directly. Hey, guys! Grover yelled somewhere above us. I think she's unconscious. Well, maybe not. Grover corrected. He went in for another pass with the tree branch. Hurry, Annabeth told me. Grover's got a great nose, but he'll eventually crash. I took out my pen and uncapped it, the bronze blade of Riptide elongated in my hand. I followed the hissing and spitting sounds of Medusa's hair. I kept my eyes locked on the gazing ball so I would only glimpse at Medusa's reflection, not the real thing. Then, in the green-tinted glass, I saw her. Grover was coming in for another turn at bat, but this time he flew a little too low. Medusa grabbed the stick and pulled him off course. He tumbled through the air, and crashed into the arms of a stone grizzly bear with a painful "Ugh!" Medusa was about to lunge at him when I yelled, "Hey!" I advanced on her, which wasn't easy, holding the sword and a glass ball. If she charged, I'd have a really hard time defending myself. But she let me approach, 20 feet, 10 feet. I could see the reflection of her face now. Surely it wasn't really that ugly. The green swirls of the gazing ball must be distorting it, making it look worse. "You wouldn't harm an old woman, Percy," she crooned. "I know you wouldn't." I hesitated, fascinated by the face I saw reflected in the glass, the eyes that seemed to burn straight through the green tint, making my arms go weak. From the cement grizzly, Grover moaned, "Percy, don't listen to her!" Medusa cackled. Too late. She lunged at me with her talons. I slashed up with my sword, heard a sickening schlock, like a hiss, or then a hiss-like wind rushing out of the cavern. The sound of a monster disintegrating. Something fell to the ground next to my foot. It took all my willpower not to look. I could feel warm ooze soaking into my sock. Little dying snakeheads tugging at my shoelaces. "Oh, yuck," Grover said. His eyes were still tightly closed, but I guess he could hear the thing gurgling and steaming. Mega yuck. Annabeth came up next to me, her eyes fixed in the sky. She was holding Medusa's black veil. She said, "Don't move." Very, very carefully, without looking down, she knelt and draped the monster's head in black cloth, then picked it up. It was still dripping green juice. "Are you okay?" she asked me, her voice trembling. Yeah, I decided, though I felt like throwing up my double cheeseburger. Why didn't the head evaporate? "Once you sever it, it becomes a spoil of war," she said. "Same as your Minotaur horn. But don't unwrap the head. It can still petrify you, so if he looks into the snake's eyes or looks at Medusa's head, then he can turn to stone yet." Grover moaned as he climbed down from the grizzly statue. He had a big welt on his forehead. His green rasta cap hung from one of his little goat horns, and his fake feet had been knocked off his hooves. The magic sneakers were flying aimlessly around his head. "The Red Baron," I said. "Good job, man." He managed a bashful grin. "That really was not fun, though. Well, the hitting her with a stick part, that was fun. But crashing into a concrete bear, not fun." He snatched his shoes out of the air. I recapped my sword. Together, the three of us stumbled back to the warehouse. We found some old plastic grocery bags behind the snack counter and double-wrapped Medusa's head. We plopped it on the table where we'd eaten dinner and sat around it, too exhausted to speak. Finally, I said, "So we have Athena to thank for this monster?" Annabeth flashed me an irritated look. "Your dad, actually. Don't you remember? Medusa was Poseidon's girlfriend. They decided to meet in my mother's temple. That's why Athena turned her into a monster. Medusa and her two sisters who had helped her get into the temple, they became 3 Gorgons. That's why Medusa wanted to slice me up. But she wanted to preserve you as a nice statue. She's still sweet on her dad. You probably reminded her of him." My face is burning. "Oh, so now it's my fault that we met Medusa?" Annabeth straightened. In a bad imitation of my voice, she said, "It's just a photo, Annabeth. What's the harm?" "Forget it," I said. "You're impossible. You're insufferable. You're—" "Hey," Grover interrupted. "You two are giving me a migraine, and satyrs don't even get migraines. What are we going to do with this head?" I stared at the thing. One little snake was hanging out of a hole in the plastic. The words printed on the side of the bag said, "We appreciate your business." I was angry, not just with Annabeth or her mom, but with all the gods for this whole quest, for getting us blown off the road and in 2 major fights the very first day from camp. At this rate, we'd never make it to LA alive, much less before the summer solstice. What had Medusa said? "Do not be a pawn of the Olympians, my dear. You would be better off as a statue." I got up. "I'll be back." Or "I'll be back." "Percy," Annabeth called after me. "What are you—" I searched the back of the warehouse until I found Medusa's office. Her account book showed her 6 most recent sales. All shipments to the underworld to decorate Hades and Persephone's garden. According to the one freight bill, the underworld's billing address was DOA Recording Studios, West Hollywood, California. I folded up the bill and stuffed it in my pocket. In the cash register, I found $20, a few golden drachmas, and some packing slips for Hermes Overnight Express, each with a little leather bag attached for coins. I rummaged around the rest of the office until I found the right-sized box. I went to the picnic table, packed up Medusa's head, and filled out a delivery slip. "To the gods, Mount Olympus, 600th floor, Empire State Building, New York, New York. With best wishes, Percy Jackson. They're not going to like that, Grover warned. They'll think you're impertinent. I poured some golden drachmas in the pouch. As soon as I closed it, there was a sound like a cash register. The package floated off the table and disappeared with a pop. I am impertinent, I said. I looked at Annabeth, daring her to criticize. She didn't. She seemed resigned to the fact that I had a major talent for ticking off the gods. Come on, she muttered. We need a new plan. And next week, the first chapter is going to be chapter 12, which is We Get Advice from a Poodle. Thanks for listening. Have a great weekend.